Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. This Sunday I was intending to release a video on the Triple Gold Club, where we took a closer look at hockey's most prestigious and exclusive group. However, if you've seen what's been happening in Eastern Europe over the last few days, you'll know that there's some pretty serious stuff taking place involving Russia and the Ukraine. Whilst I am neither qualified nor educated enough to discuss the social and political side of the situation, many of you know that I've been keeping tabs on the Kontinental Hockey League for quite some time, and to say that things have taken a turn for the worse would be the understatement of the year. Though the KHL is set to begin the 2022 Gagarin Cup playoffs in just a few days on March 1st, whether it's a fan club protesting against their own team, sponsors severing ties with certain organisations, or several different franchises withdrawing from the league completely, the last few days have been one hell of a roller coaster ride. So what's going on in the KHL? Why has there been so much upheaval, and how will it affect the league moving forwards? Well, let's take a look at the most notable events of the last week and try to figure it out, shall we? So in today's video, join me as we explore why the Kontinental Hockey League is an absolute mess. Let us begin with a brief summary of the events that have led to the KHL's recent struggles. Since 2014, Russia and Ukraine have been involved in an armed conflict known as the Russo-Ukrainian War, with the bulk of the conflict centering around the Eastern European regions of Crimea and Donbass. With the conflict having raged in some shape or form for the past 8 years now, and with Russia having amassed its military along Ukraine's borders throughout the entirety of last year, the question wasn't if things would escalate, but when. Unfortunately, it finally happened earlier this week, as on February 24th, 2022, Russia launched a large-scale invasion of Ukraine, conducted several missile strikes against their neighbour, and ordered their troops to enter the country. Now, what does all of this have to do with the KHL? Well, in order to answer this question, we must turn our attention north to Finland. Since the 14-15 season, Jokerit, also known as the Helsinki Jokers, has been competing in the KHL as a member of the league's Western Conference. During this span, the Finnish side has established itself as one of the top teams in the league, recording 35 wins or more in 5 of their first 7 KHL seasons, and clinching a berth in the Gagarin Cup playoffs every single year as one of the highest seeds in the West. However, Jokerit have been unable to secure their first KHL championship, as the team have made it out of the first round just once during this span. If that wasn't bad enough though, the one year they did reach the second round was when the rest of the playoffs were cancelled due to the global pandemic. Talk about pouring salt into a wound, eh folks? During the recent 21-22 season, Jokerit continued its strong play of years past, as they sat third place in the West with a 29-12-6 record in 47 games, before the season was ended prematurely due to the effects of the ongoing pandemic. Since each team had played a different number of games when the season was cancelled, the league elected to use points percentage to determine the final standings, and since Jokerit had one of the best percentages in the Western Conference, they moved up to the second seed in the West and were set to face Spartak Moscow in the first round of the Gagarin Cup playoffs. However, thanks to recent events and the domino effect that they have created, things have taken quite the unexpected turn. With tensions rising between Russia and Ukraine for several days, earlier this week on February 22nd, one of Jokerit's 3 supporters associations, known as the Southern End Association, demanded that Jokerit withdraw their team from their upcoming series with Spartak and remove themselves from the KHL entirely in response to the escalating conflict. In their press release announcing their demands, the South End stated that if Jokerit continued to play in the KHL, they would cause, quote, immeasurable damage to the entire club, which may never be repaired again. While this isn't the first time that the South End have put their foot down, since they had previously demanded that the team refuse to travel to Minsk following the human rights violations in Belarus last year, and while many Jokerit fans have been wanting their team to leave the KHL for several years now, since they dislike the Russian influence on their club, the South side had never previously demanded that the team leave the league altogether. That said, the recent events in Ukraine seem to have reignited the conversation and prompted fans to put even greater pressure on the team to finally make the move. Soon after the South End's press release, Jokerit released a statement to their website responding to the Supporters Association's requests. In it, the statement claimed that since the growing situation was, quote, exceptionally difficult, the team felt that they weren't the right party to strongly align their views one way or the other. Not only that, the statement said that the team had binding agreements with the KHL and had an obligation to comply, while also stating that the team had a responsibility as an employer. That said, the team did say that they were, quote, monitoring the situation closely and engaging in an active dialogue with our stakeholders, so it was possible that they might change their mind if the situation developed. Now, it's worth pointing out that while 60% of Jokerit shares are owned by Finnish hockey legend Jari Kurri, the remaining 40% are owned by Russian mining company Norilsk Nickel, meaning that nearly half of the organisation is directly owned by Russian business. Speaking of Jari Kurri, the Hall of Fame forward also stated on February 22nd that the situation wasn't as simple as Jokerit just withdrawing from the league, as he said that the team had certain contractual obligations to fulfill. After all, given that Jokerit draws the bulk of their funding from their Russian shareholders, the team would likely suffer severe financial repercussions if they did decide to sever ties with the league, albeit temporarily. That said, one article claims that the Jokerit organisation has been losing over €10 million a season and have offset these losses through capital loans, so perhaps the foreign investment isn't helping as much as they would like. Though Jokerit would refuse to give in to their fans' demands, the team would soon face a similar response from a number of their sponsors too. Just 2 days after the fan pushback on February 24th, Finnish outlet MTV revealed that beverage company Heartwall, one of Jokerit's major sponsors who have held the naming rights to the team's arena since 1997, was investigating the possibility of concluding their partnership with the team, as company CEO Kal Järvinen stated that due to Russia's military action against Ukraine, we are exploring the possibility of withdrawing from the agreement. Not only that, Järvinen also mentioned that while the sanctions imposed on Russia by the international community remain in place, quote, there will be no financial benefit from owning shares within the club. If that wasn't bad enough though, this news was later followed by private employment company Barona, another of Jokerit's major sponsors who are responsible for supplying employees to the club and their arena, announcing that they too had officially cut ties with the club and would no longer supply staff for their match day events, with company CEO Lassi Mata stating that, quote, we do not want to be involved in supporting the activity of the Jokers, who play in the Russian KHL League. This swift response from a pair of their biggest sponsors, coupled with Russia's invasion into Ukraine on February 24th, prompted Jokerit to re-evaluate their situation and change their mind, as later that same day, Finnish news outlet MTV reported that Jokerit were planning to withdraw from the KHL. Though the team was set to face Spartak Moscow on March 1st, thanks to the Ukraine situation reaching boiling point, and thanks to public pressure from their fans, sponsors, and the media, the team ultimately decided that it was in their best interests to remove themselves from the league. This news was confirmed the following day on February 25th, when Jokerit released another statement to their website officially announcing their withdrawal from the KHL for the remainder of the 21-22 season. In the statement, majority owner Jari Kurri said that he had taken the position to end Jokerit's season the previous day on February 24th, but in accordance with KHL policies, he had to hold discussions with the league and confirm these actions with them, which is why both the statement and the team's official announcement took until the following day. Not only that, Kurri stated that, quote, the world is going through really difficult times right now, and that he hoped a peaceful solution could be found soon, although he never specifically mentioned Russia's invasion into Ukraine as the motivations for their decision, instead referring to it as the situation. This statement by Kurri was quickly followed by a press release from the KHL announcing the news, as well as a statement from league president Alexei Morozov. In it, Morozov said that the KHL was very sorry to lose Jokerit from the league, as they had been an excellent team, played a vibrant style of hockey, and had been consistently successful since their inaugural season back in 2014, but he also mentioned how it was unfortunate that Jokerit's departure was due to political reasons and not sporting ones. I can't tell for sure if he's taking a jab at Jokerit here, but it kinda sounds like it to me, you know. So where do things go from here? Well, besides Jokerit having officially withdrawn from the KHL for the rest of the season, it seems as if the league is pretty much operating as business as usual. If you ask me, this situation will likely play out in one of two ways. Either the KHL presses on with the postseason despite Jokerit's departure and completes the Gagarin Cup playoffs regardless of the backlash they will likely receive from the international hockey community, or the growing pressure from fans, media and sponsors alike will force the league's other non-Russian teams to also consider severing ties with the KHL, which could cause major problems to the upcoming playoffs and maybe even jeopardise the future of the league as a whole. Though it was rumoured that the KHL had considered adding Torpedo Nizhny Novgorod to replace Jokerit in the playoffs, since Torpedo finished 9th place in the Western Conference, the league decided to take things in a completely different direction, as on February 25th, the KHL announced that Jokerit had been awarded 4 consecutive forfeit losses for withdrawing from the league and failing to attend their upcoming contests against Spartak Moscow, meaning that the Russian side had been awarded a 4-0 series victory over Jokerit and had advanced to the second round of the playoffs. So Spartak have already booked a place to the second round 4 days before the first round is set to begin. Given that Spartak won't play their first postseason game for roughly 2 weeks after everybody else does, and given that the team haven't made it to the second round of the playoffs since 2010, this situation is both a blessing and a curse for them. After all, while most teams can win a round with their talent, depth, or a fair amount of luck, it seems as if Spartak needs a large-scale invasion of Ukraine. Since Jokerit's statement mentioned that the team was withdrawing from the KHL for the current 21-22 season, it's unclear as to what their plans are for next season and beyond. After all, if Russia pulls out of Ukraine over the following months and the tensions eventually die down, will Jokerit return for the upcoming 22-23 season? If you ask me, I think it's highly unlikely that Jokerit will return to the KHL anytime soon, if ever at all, as it seems as if the bridge has already been burned by both sides. I expect that the team will look to distance itself from the league as much as it can, sever ties with the club's Russian influence at every level of their organisation, and attempt to rejoin the Finnish Liga for the upcoming season of play, returning to the league that they had played in before joining the KHL back in 2014. Whilst their withdrawal from the league will likely come with some sizable financial repercussions, either from the league itself, from their Russian shareholders, or from lost game day revenue, Jokerit's departure means that the KHL has lost their one and only team in Finland, a market that had been highly successful up until this point. After all, Jokerit had made more money from broadcasting rights than any other team in the league by a huge margin for several years straight. Losing nearly 50 million rubles a year in TV rights will clearly affect the league's bottom line. Couple that with Finnish sports channel Discovery refusing to show any Gagarin Cup playoff games on their network, and the KHL is also going to take a notable hit financially, both from Jokerit's withdrawal and the loss of interest from a sizable contingent of Finnish hockey fans who had followed the team for several years. Though Jokerit's future is far from certain, their departure due to Russia's military actions has raised serious questions surrounding the KHL's other non-Russian teams. Since the league now has 4 different non-Russian franchises based in China, Latvia, Belarus and Kazakhstan respectively, it will be interesting to see if any of these teams have a similar response to their Finnish contemporaries. Since Latvian side Dinamo Riga have also withdrawn from the league earlier today, with a statement claiming that they do not see any opportunity for cooperation with the KHL in the current military and humanitarian crisis, Riga finished last place in the Western Conference and were unable to secure a playoff berth. So whilst their decision won't have quite the same immediate effect as Jokerit's has, it will cause notable disruption to the KHL next season. That said, Belarusian side Dinamo Minsk and Kazakhstan side Baris Nur-Sultan were both able to punch their ticket to the playoffs as the 4th seed in the West and the 8th seed in the East respectively, but there has been no update as to whether or not either side will also withdraw from the competition. Given that both of these countries are still very close to Russia socially, politically and economically, and given that Belarus supposedly offered to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it's unlikely that either side plans on leaving the KHL anytime soon. That said, if the 3 remaining non-Russian teams did decide to withdraw from the league, it could cause some major logistical issues for the KHL, both during the upcoming playoffs and the following 22-23 season, while also potentially forcing the league to become a Russian-only competition moving forwards. If that were the case, I imagine that the KHL would consider hitting the reset button and completely rebranding itself, as you can't exactly be named the Kontinental Hockey League and only have teams from a single country, can you? However, perhaps the most pressing issue facing the KHL following Russia's invasion of Ukraine is what to do with the non-Russian players who are currently employed in the league. After all, there are a whole host of players from North America and elsewhere in Europe that play in the KHL for Russian-based teams. What are they supposed to do? Should they stay in Russia and play out the rest of the year despite working in a country that has literally invaded their neighbour, or do they terminate their deals with their respective teams and book the first flight back home? Well, according to recent reports, these questions are already being asked by the players themselves, as Finnish media outlet MTV claimed that Neftahimic netminder Frans Tuohima was awaiting information from his homeland as to how he should act as a foreign athlete playing in Russia. Not only that, recent events have also made him question whether he should continue his career in Russia for the following 22-23 season, or whether he should return home to Finland instead. Considering the severity of the events over the last few days, I wouldn't be surprised if a number of non-Russian KHL players decided to depart the league for good in the near future, leaving their respective teams to pick up the pieces and attempt to create a competitive roster without them. Not only do Russia's recent actions affect the KHL and its foreign player base, it could also affect several upcoming events in the IIHF's calendar, as both the World Championships and the World Junior Championships are set to be held in Russia next year. That said, the IIHF recently announced that they shall be holding meetings on whether or not the event should be moved elsewhere in response to the current situation, meaning that both the country and its hosting venues could lose out on a pair of notable opportunities if the federation decides to move the competitions elsewhere. While the IIHF have had a pretty strong relationship with Russia in years past, if the current conflict continues, or if it somehow escalates even further over the coming months, I think it would be almost impossible for the Federation to host these events in their current venues without any major pushback from the international hockey community. After all, I don't think the likes of Canada, America, or any of the Scandinavian countries would be too keen on flying their players to a country that's currently engaged in open warfare with their neighbour, do you? Whether the situation in Eastern Europe is here to stay, and whether the KHL continues with business as usual remains to be seen. But given that their only Finnish team has already withdrawn from the league, another team has followed suit, and many of their foreign players are considering leaving the country, the KHL sure isn't looking too good right now. So, will the league press on with its postseason despite growing backlash from the international hockey community? Will it postpone its schedule until the current situation dies down, or will it be forced to become a Russian-only league once its foreign teams and players decide to leave the competition for good? I guess we'll have to wait and see, folks. And that was a look at why the Kontinental Hockey League is an absolute mess. What do you guys think about the current situation? Do you think that Jokerit and Dinamo Riga were right to withdraw from the league? Or do you think that the KHL will be forced to cancel the playoffs before they even begin? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.